The Rant. Meet Christina and Eric. What grinds their gears? The experts in the fields of architectural design, pre-construction, construction management, fine cabinetry. The Rant, a podcast by One York Company.
Yes, you need to get to the stage in life where everybody tells you can just give up on things.
Yeah, I'm there, man.
Contour under your clothes.
That's right. Remember, this is a construction and design podcast, so I guess no more underwear conversation.
It is the construction of what you see, the under construction.
Okay, so what are we talking about today? Episode 6. We are talking about, let's talk about the difference between design approaches for your personal space and for a business space. And let's define a personal space, like your family home, right? Which could be a duplex, or a triplex for that matter. But if you're using it for your personal space, there's one design approach for that. Then you're catering to essentially the people within that house that's being considered, their lifestyles, their routines, like what they do every day and how to support them by the physical space around them. Then there's a space that is purchased for the purpose of an investment, or it is a professional space, I would argue, in which case it's not for any one particular person, it's for people in general. Yes?
I love how you're dancing around this. Yes, it's for people in general.
Right. That doesn't mean that they are
It doesn't mean
human.
that those people don't have any needs. It's like,
Yes.
the one thing I would say is that often the decisions that circulate around solely an investment piece.
If you can't tell yet, what we're trying not to say is investment properties made by investors downplay the needs of those people renting the space.
But it does.
It does.
It does. It's
Yes.
like all of a sudden you forgot how you would use the space if
Right.
you were in it. And not that it needs to have the emotional involvement. It's not like we're not taking into consideration all of the micro facets of your day to day and how you would use the space based on your particular routines and XYZ. But you shouldn't ignore how people would use the space and the fact that they still have shit they have to put away.
Yes, they are human as well.
Yeah, they cook,
Yes.
they clean.
Yes.
There's all the things that are pain in your ass in your life are going to be a pain in their ass in their life because they probably are more transitional and less, I think, set in what it is that their routines are and things like that. So you tend to, I think, in that respect, collect more random shit that you then have to have a place and a spot for.
Let's not talk hyperbolically about this. Let's get nitty gritty. Okay, your personal space you're gonna live in for a long time. Like when you undertake the renovation of your home and you're gonna live there usually for a longer period of time. Like when you buy a house and live there, you want to live there 5 to 10 years minimum,
This
kind
is
of
my
thing.
forever home.
Or your casket house, as I like to say, is that you're getting buried in this fucking thing. But okay, or if you're a renter, it's generally shorter term. So the difference being that you have to design one space that is specific for your needs, like you, the person, that house, making your life better, performance enhancing, what have you, and then the other space for a renter. But don't you fucking dare.
Just ignore it. Someone else will get it. It's your roofing friend.
It's my roofing friend?
Yeah.
Rob?
Yes.
Rob. I talked to you about being on the show.
Another day.
Well, not today.
Carry on.
Carry on.
What were you saying?
Renters.
Not about your space.
Yes, but renters being discounted, in their needs being discounted. And I actually do not remember where I was. I'm sorry.
You were saying that you were not doing it with an emotional space, like how you use your performance enhancing space of your own.
Yeah, I mean, what I was trying to get at here is that when you're designing a space for renters, it's oftentimes that their needs are overlooked insofar as that because you're not thinking of one particular person living in that space, and there's always that variability. Is it one person? Is it two? Is it a young family, or is it just a solo person in school or a young professional? That because no particular person is considered specifically, then essentially it's amorphic. It could be anybody, and therefore you don't put anybody's true needs first.
Yeah, and then it becomes a poor design. The thing is that I think if you're investing, and if it were me, if I were investing in a fourplex or more, or an investment property where it's going to be multifamily in terms of the residential units that are in it, you should dive into the demographic around you. Like,
Absolutely.
who is it that's going to rent your space? What, like, somebody here that's going to rent in East York potentially is maybe more family oriented, maybe a young family or a couple who've just moved here, or like XYZ, because the demographic here is different. It's not like Liberty Village where it's like,
Yes,
you know,
different.
single dudes trolling around. Like, there's know your demographic and know your market so that you can design a space so that you can actually tailor it to them. Like, if I was building something in Liberty Village, those fucking dog pot filler dishes all day long.
You
all day
fucking
long.
stole it. I was like, I'm gonna have a French bulldog sized doggy door.
Yeah. Well, I looked in Liberty Village when we first moved to Toronto, and I literally said to my daughter, like, B, if we move here, I was like, we're gonna have to get a dog, and I feel like that's a hard stop for me. So
We're not moving here.
next neighborhood. Like, thank you, but no. Yeah, but it's true though. You need to know your demographic well enough, because while you are trying to make it applicable to the masses, you still have a subset of the masses. And you're not like, this doesn't apply to the whole fucking world.
And it's not like it's rocket science either. Like, I'll give you some really easy ones. Like, if you're near a hospital, you're probably gonna get some nurses.
Yeah.
Just gonna say that, right? Like, if you're near a school, what you gonna get? Right. Students, right? You know what I mean? Let's figure that one out, right? But like, I can tell you this: if you want to have a kitchen, right? Everybody's got the same amount of stuff in the kitchen. Like, you have colander. I used to be a chef.
I don't give a fuck if you cook or not. You still own pots and pans.
You have
might not use them.
You have to have a place to put them. And exactly. You may not even use the goddamn things, but you certainly fucking have them.
Yeah.
Because your mother dropped them off for sure, and they're like busted and they are burnt out.
That was part of your parting package from home.
Yeah.
Thank you. You will no longer be in my house. I've set you up so you never have to come back.
Your dad was like not willing to throw those out. They were sitting in the garage, nicely stacked, like next to a hose and an old baseball bat forever. And he dug those fuckers out, put them in his old U-Haul box, and dropped them off at your house.
Yeah.
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 100%.
But yeah, it's like you can't design too universally, because then you do stupid things.
Yes.
And you do things that would, in the effort to save money or to be universally applicable, you make decisions that may negatively impact your ability to actually rent the space to the demographic that's in it.
Right. Let's talk on that. Does the design of a rental space truly affect the value you can rent it for? Or is the market so tight for rental that it could be like a hole in a fucking wall?
The market is not tight for rental. That's the
isn't.
thing. There are so many fucking places to rent now, because it's
When you say
like,
rent now, do you think that, like, this is coming from a person who's like, I don't move often. Like, I've moved like grand total twice my whole life, and it's been like from one house to another. So like, yeah, okay. Judge me if you will on that one. But like, I don't understand. Is it like,
you only had to move the pots and pans once.
That's it. That's it. That's it. Yeah.
I moved from my mom to my wife.
Basically it. But thank you for making that public. that's basically, it's that face for, man.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm not the only man that's like that. All right. I'm a good person.
You are not alone.
All right.
No, there's a category of you.
Don't finish the sentence. You folk. What am I, a fucking hobbit?
You're a dying breed, I will tell you that. I read the other day, I saw a post about how on dating apps now, most of the people on dating apps are actually in relationships already. And I was like, that really fucks the rest of us over, doesn't it?
That's not fair. You can't do that.
You came to an all women's league dressed as like a boy dressed as a girl. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Where the fuck were we again?
Pots and pans, moving from house to house.
Yeah, there it is. If does the design actually affect, like say if you have a really awesomely designed rental unit, that's kind of like purpose built for the general demographic of the people that may live there, or it's like some kind of rundown place. Do you think that the renters can discern the difference there?
I 100% think that, or I can tell you for like just outright, I would pay more for a unit that was better suited to accommodate all of my day-to-day needs. Like, if there were 5 options and they were all the same price point, and then there was a 6th option that was more money, but it solved for the things that were missing in the other pieces, I would pay more for that. Mm-hmm. Like, it absolutely affects the decision to rent it, because where are you going to put your stuff? So it's one of those things, okay, the market's here and I'm going to take all these units for the same price, but none of them have storage. So it doesn't matter. Like, I might as well look at a unit that's $300 more or $400 more if I have to pay to store the shit that I can't fit in my unit. So I'm net. So I might as well leave it in a place with, that's designed with me in mind so that every day of my life is more simple when I come home, and I'm then alleviating all of the day-to-day things. Even though I'm a renter, even though, it's not my permanent space, you still look for efficiencies in your time. Like, everybody's the same amount of time in a day.
You know what's funny? As you were saying that, what just dawned on me, and this is unfortunate, and I may regret saying this, I feel like what happens is that investors, or the people that have the equity to make these kinds of investments into creating these properties, have some kind of complex where they think renters are stupid and that they can't discern the value.
That's the thing. You seem to be so far.
Am I close, or is it like so disconnected that it's like, Rose to whip Decatur on the fucking Titanic?
I feel like by the time that most people are in a position to do something like that, where they are able to they have the equity to put aside and to buy a separate property that's completely removed from their life, that's whatever, they're so far disconnected from other parts of things and so just used to the way that they live that they don't have the ability to look at it through the lens of the people that are actually going to be the end user of the space.
What's that called? Empathy or empathetic perspective?
I don't fucking
something
know.
like that.
Stupidity?
But we can go. Yeah, sure. Okay.
We'll go then.
A little bit hard,
Apathy?
right? Yeah, okay. All right. But I think that it's an interesting point to make because, yes, let's go one layer deeper there. If I think that, I'm going to say this, people who are older have usually the equity to do that.
Correct.
Okay. So those older people, and I'm going to say older, I'm going to say 50-ish.
Okay.
That's probably where you're at when you're the most people where you can buy another house to fucking do it.
The average person who's got the ability. Yeah.
And you're making rental units, and that's what your job is.
Building a portfolio.
You're probably not fucking 28.
No.
Right? Unless you crypto something and fucking AI that other thing and wherever.
Yeah, if you're 28, you're the exception, not
to the rule. Right. Okay. So they may come from a generation where they view renters as people who may not have a good income. But it's in Toronto now where it's like, hey, you want to own a house? Well, get ready and buckle up for your $9,000 a month mortgage.
Maybe I don't want to own a house because I don't want the fucking responsibility. I don't want the maintenance.
So then the argument is that the renter demographic is changing and the average renter is becoming more sophisticated. Can you argue that point?
100%.
Yeah.
I would. It's like there's people who deliberately don't purchase a home because they want to use their money to put into other investments, to build a portfolio in things that are not real estate and XYZ. They don't want to be tied to a place. They don't want the responsibility. They don't want to be tied to one location necessarily. It doesn't mean that they can't afford it. It doesn't mean that they're not sophisticated or all of these things. And I think that's the problem, is that there's certainly the subset of people who are just leaving home for the first time, and students, and there's that setting, but there's also another tier of people who rent, who are business professionals and make great income, and they just choose to do things differently. They don't have kids yet, maybe they don't want kids, and they don't need the extra space, and they don't need the headache. For me,
or they've had kids and now they're done with that.
Yeah, my kids are 15 and 20. You know what I mean?
Freaks people out,
so it's I don't need space. We live in a condo, it's 700 square feet, and I rent, and it's great because I don't have to worry about anything. I have great amenities. I live in a great neighborhood.
Oh, I know.
It's there's no benefit to me, and I've owned homes. All over the place. And the reality is that the maintenance and the upkeep and the responsibility of, even if I'm not the one shoveling the driveway, having to coordinate it, having to make sure it's done, having to pay.
Sucks.
It's a second job. Frankly, my time is more valuable to me than to spend it working on those things.
Every weekend, I know this sounds very not, the average guy's look on life, but I'm I fucking hate mowing my lawn, whippersnipping that shit, raking that back up, then mowing, and then in the wintertime, breaking up the ice, shoveling it, and then it's it's just hours in a day that I don't want to spend. I know that sounds oh my God, you're such a piece of shit complaining that you have a house and you don't want to mow your lawn and do that, but but get where I'm coming from. It's
there's a bunch of people that share that sentiment that don't want to do that. And because they don't have necessarily a large family yet, or a family or whatever, then they're not bound to needing more space. Right. And because you don't need more space, it's it makes sense to them to rent. But if you're treating everybody that's renting who cares? You're the lower tier,
Plebeian.
group.
Yeah, it's like,
yeah,
listen, you pleb, you will live in this hole. Yeah,
like, I have fucking options too.
Yeah, like, fuck
just
you.
because you designed a stupid space doesn't mean I have to take it.
And then back to another. Okay, so two things. First thing is that I think that an older generation considers renters to be in all one category, and it's kind of like a faceless category. That's all one demographic, which just isn't the fucking case. And I'll tell you that right across the board. So let's end that one. And then I already forgot my second point.
Goldfish.
Damn.
I got the fucking memory of a
It
goldfish.
was. I think it said cold fish.
Goldfish.
No.
I was on site this morning, and so Stas says something. He's like, he said something about having a window installer, and he said, I told Eric, and I laughed, and I was like, well, that was your first problem. I said, if it's important, I said, don't tell. I said, you can also tell Eric, but also tell somebody else, because it will go in, and it will get lost, and it will never fucking come out.
Yeah, you
and
gotta
then,
say, I told Eric and somebody else, because
Yes.
otherwise you didn't tell anybody.
that's the rule of thumb. Yeah, like, if you didn't tell Eric and somebody else, it didn't fucking happen, sir. It doesn't matter.
You know what? There's a funny story around that. It's like I have a very poor memory like that, but I have a great memory in other ways. But in that way, particularly, not so great. But because I have like this, like I can't tell a lie for the life of me, and it looks bad on me. Like you could tell right away. I'm just not good at it.
Yeah.
So I oftentimes with clients will just be like, "Did I say that?" And then they're like, "Yes," and I say, "Well, tell me the context in which I said it." And then they repeat back the context. I'm like, "Yep, that sounds like something I would say." And I'm like, "Boom, that's the deal we'll go with." I'm like, I rely on that.
Yeah, you know what
quite
the best part
often.
is when somebody asks you something and you say something and like that's what you said before, and but you don't remember saying it before, and you're like, well, fuck, at least I'm consistent. That is some solid thinking there. Like I am very firm in whatever I said because I've said it twice now with no context for the other reference that happened the first time.
Yep.
So
Sounds like something I would say. Perfect. Let's move on it. Yeah. I was right then and I'm right now. Let's go.
Yeah, I still right. And so
Fuck. Yeah, build your
the
house
fact
great.
that
Don't
you
worry.
asked me twice makes me now I'm frustrated because you fucking asked me twice.
And the people closest to me, like, basically are now testing this theory. Like, my son's like, "Can we go to the park now? Can we go to the park now?" I'm like, "What did I say earlier?"
Can we go to the park now?
Yes. Okay. So yes. So designing rental spaces, you need to consider in these times that there is a competition, that B, that the renters are different, and that C, that they're going to know the difference in value. And I'll give you something really easy. Like when I was doing my duplex, like my house, like legal conforming versus legal non-conforming for basement apartments. Legal conforming is the fact.
Versus burned to death.
Yes. So there you go. So it's a funny thing, eh? City of Toronto, where you could have a legal conforming versus legal non-conforming. So legal conforming is that like it's like separated to Ontario Building Code standards currently, that it's two distinct units, right?
You are safe.
You are safe. You have fire separation. You have sound attenuation. You usually have two.
You got windows that will fit you if you got to get out of them.
You have two means of egress if you need that shit.
That's it.
Like you have dedicated exit. You have like you have two different mechanical systems. You can control your own temperature.
All the things.
Isn't that a fucking luxury,
Yeah.
right? Legal non-conforming is basically you had a duplex before the building code came into place, and then they can't take it away from you.
Yeah.
And so now you're in the position where it's like,
You're like, I licked it, it's mine.
yeah, you're holding it, and then the city is like, "Can I have that back?" And you're like, "No."
No.
Yeah, and then people live down in the basement, and then like start
Those are the people with, very low risk aversion.
risk aversion. Let's talk about that for a second, because it's like for me, because the moment I was doing my duplex, I was like, and there's gonna be people in the basement that I don't know, my family's upstairs, and I'm like, yeah. Conform, like I'm gonna get fire separation. I put an extra layer.
Insulate the people above from the stupidity of the people below.
I don't know you.
Or vice versa. Like,
Yes.
You are two separate people. It's not like, oh, legal non-conforming. I got my parents in the basement. I've done 3 decades with these fuckers and I know how they behave, and like I can buffer for their stupidity or the things that they
Yes.
may do that they don't consider to be important. You
Yes.
know?
Yeah, like having a renter in your basement is the exact same circumstance as like going on a car trip and then picking up somebody on the side of the road.
Yeah, you're
That's
picking up a hitchhiker.
Yeah, it's the same.
Putting them in the
fucking
front seat and
unit.
being like, let's not die, okay?
No, it's even worse. You're putting him in the back seat directly behind you. It's like that's where every fucking car chase where you're like getting hijacked and the car goes, like that bad person sitting right behind you. It's the same thing. Like renting your house, renting your basement apartment up. Who's this?
My daughter.
Oh, take it.
She's
hi.
she's just texted. She's at Union Station.
Oh, that's good.
That is check point 1
my
of
God.
3.
I just the cord of your earphones touched the back of my ankles, and I thought it was like a bug, and I was like,
don't freak out, don't freak out, don't freak out.
Imagine I was like, just screamed like a little girl. I was like, yeah, that wasn't me, that was her.
Yeah. Oh man.
Where were we on that? Anyways, yeah.
Risk aversion.
Risk aversion.
Hitchhiker in the backseat.
Yeah. Basement apartments. That one always gets me. It's like the moment I found out that we were going to do that, 'cause like, obviously you save a whole crap ton of money. Also, like, let's talk about that for one more second in terms of like, if you have a renovation for your home, right? And you're pushing the edges of what you can afford, right? There's no shame in renting your basement to somebody. There is like some complex with people like, oh, I don't want to rent. Oh God, no, I would never have.
It's the same group of people that can't do a renovation and not finish their basement.
Yeah.
It's
Same
that group.
people. It's like you can finish that basement like in a year from now or whatever. Like it doesn't make a difference. Like, but don't risk aversion. Like don't take your renovation, don't take your project to the edge of what you can afford.
I feel like, yeah.
And then expect it to be like not holding your breath the last little bit. It's like, that's like deep diving. If you had to go deep sea diving, or what do they do that with no breath and they go right down?
Free diving.
Free diving. There, boom. It's like going down there, but swimming all the way down and almost being out of breath at the bottom. Like that's a really bad plan. Don't do that. Like, make sure you got some in the tank so you can get back up.
Yeah, I don't
Right?
know. Like I can see why people wouldn't, from a personal perspective. Like I don't like people in my space. I don't like,
I also like being able to pay for my mortgage though.
100% though, right? Like that's the difference. If you can create, yes, there's definitely a stigma around it because it's like if you have the ability to rent it out and create it and make it a useful space, especially if it's just an occasional space for you and it's not really something that you capitalize on out of like the need for it because of the size of your family or whatever, then you're just setting yourself up for having a different use for whatever income you've got. Like if you can do it on your own and then you do it and you've got supplementary income, that supplementary income then becomes something that you can grow and invest otherwise or do whatever the fuck you want with, really. But it's like I don't see the I don't understand the aversion to it, to be honest. But
so let's pivot from the idea of now designing houses for renters, and I think we covered that one off pretty hard. But there's always more to talk about. I can go like
there's always more hard things.
I'm trying to say something that will not propagate that.
It all propagates.
Yeah, it all. Oh my God, I almost said something so bad inappropriately. Not inappropriately, inadvertently. Oh my God, I'm not even saying it.
Oh God. Focus.
I had I grew up
baseball.
In
Grandma.
I grew up in the Danforth, and like one of my friends, his name's Alex, and his dad, he would say focus, but the way that he pronounced focus is fuckus.
Oh,
and
yeah.
so he would try to teach us to play guitar, and he would yell fuck us, and I'm like I'm trying so hard, but I was like,
You know what focus stands for?
No.
Fuck off because you're stupid.
Oh God.
If I ever say, listen, I need you to focus right now. Like,
Hey, wait a second.
wait a minute.
Wait a second. Didn't you say that to me earlier?
If I say focus like that, that's different. That's like fucking.
That's how you start to fight. Don't clap it at me.
Pay attention, fucker.
Instantaneously, I was like,
To trigger Eric's fight or flight response.
yeah, loud noises. That pretty much gets me every time.
You're like a Dalmatian.
Yeah, definitely. Squirrel. Oh, fuck.
God.
Okay, we're gonna have to do this quick because. Don't
Name it my sex tape.
I just tried to. I was like, do I
Do this quick.
Do I go? Okay. There's not much time left. We have to talk about how we approach. You know what? Fuck it.
Be succinct in what you're saying.
We'll talk about homes and how you design them for a personal space on the next episode. Let's just chalk this episode up to the fact that we just talked about rental markets and dick jokes, basically.
Which kind of,
Yeah.
whatever. That's
right.
it. That's the rant.
Episode 6 out.
Episode 6.
Shit.
The Rant, a podcast by One York Company.